Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining this week's Profoundly group chat, where we connect leaders, professionals, and builders across the HubSpot and app partner ecosystem with the Profoundly community. Today, we're going to dig into how solopreneurs, freelancers, and founders think about operations, from metrics that matter to the systems that actually support growth without overcomplicating everything, right? I'm really excited for today's session. We've got a fantastic guest with us here today, Jean-Michel, Senior Vice President at SmartBug. Jean-Michel has been instrumental in helping scale one of the, or should I say, two of the most successful HubSpot partner organizations in history. He brings just a really sharp perspective, practical experience on what it takes to build a business that runs efficiently and sustainably within the ecosystem. Jean-Michel, thanks so much for joining and for sharing your insights with us today.
The pleasure, the pleasure.
Awesome. Now, you've played a major role in building not one, but two of the successful partner organizations within HubSpot's ecosystem. First, Globalia, and now at SmartBug. I'd love to dig into that a little bit, but first, I'd like to start with maybe taking a quick step back to understand a little bit about your path, like your journey, and how you got into this world. Curious to hear like what shaped you early on that led you to where you are today.
All right. Well, first of all, I studied in communication and business administration at university. So that's where I'm coming from in terms of school. But I like to bring the fact that I was in a punk rock band, and I'm glad to say I was able to pay my university by being in a band.
Nice.
It's In Canada, university, it's not the same cost as in the US, so it's much lower. So that's why I was able to pay by being in a band. But that era, at the same time as going at school, like it forged me in a lot of ways. And that DIY, like the do-it-yourself mindset, really is something I kept for all my career. I started by working in a small agency and I became a co-owner there. And then we sold our shares there. And fun fact, like we are having like my co-owner is now working with us at SmartBug. And then I switch on another to another place. Actually, we founded another agency called MXO with four friends. We grew it up to 80 employees. But I was like at MXO, I was starting to get a real interest into like the CRM and ERP software, and they were not ready to do that. And Globalia was. So again, I sold my shares and I jumped into Globalia. When I arrived, we were like 35 employees. We started focusing a lot on HubSpot, and I had the opportunity to lead that small group and grew it to like the biggest business line into Globalia, and that's where we met for the first time. And we got acquired in 2023 by SmartBug. So it's kind of the path we had so far. So I did a lot of different roles, like project management. I've been to sales, account direction, production, leadership, and then COO. So I've done almost everything.
Got it.
But you don't want me to design your logo, that's for sure.
That always struck me as something just about you, like whatever you're doing, I think you have a natural ability to like figure it out. Like you have a very entrepreneurial spirit about you, which I think will resonate with lots of folks on the call and in the community. We've got lots of entrepreneurs, lots of solopreneurs. I don't know. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you've got the itch to always be learning
It's
and
I always considered myself an entrepreneur, so that's why, like every place I've worked before, like it's always the same. Like give me the keys to like a line of business, let me analyze it, and then we'll try to figure out the ecosystem. And that's why I really appreciate the HubSpot ecosystem because it's really organic. So it was really fun to understand and then react and build on it. So and
Yeah.
HubSpot was really good with the partner. So it's something that was really easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you mentioned, we got to know each other when you were at Globalia and I was leading HubSpot's partner program. One of the things that always stood out to me about you in particular was you really went out of your way to help others and lift others up. I remember very passionately a couple of times called and sort of said, like, we have got to rolled out programs for how to train. I think the one that I remember fondly was how to train partners on how to manage their financials and like manage their operations. And, you even volunteered to lead courses in that,
Remember
to,
that?
to help others. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like, where does that come from? Like,
Well, I participated in so many HubSpot programs. So the partner user group, and then we had the partner advisory council, and then in some boot camp. So it led me to meet like a lot of individual in a lot of founders of partners, and a lot of them are amazing people at like on marketing. A lot of them are amazing sales strategists, but I've seen that some of them have minimum entrepreneurial skills. So it created an issue, and really probably the 2 years before we sold to SmartBug, like we probably met with like being in active discussion with at least 10 other partners. Some were elite, some were diamond, but there was always something with like finance plan, business plan that like it led us to decide to grow by being acquired. So that's the sad part because we were not able to find the right partner to move on. So tons of a lot like so many great people, but like I think the lack of finance operation and entrepreneur skills is something that was clearly missing. It changed a lot in the last 2 years in a really positive way. But it's still something that like I was sharing that with you because in a sense like I was aware that HubSpot wanted to go up market, and when you want to go up market and like rival with Salesforce or other, like you need to have like bigger agency and like HubSpot is always already trying to push that there's like merge or acquisition within the ecosystem, but in a sense it's not always easy. So it was something that was really I was sad to see that. So that's why I wanted to talk with you at one point, and then I talk a little bit, I think, with Angie too, about like we should try to find a way to educate people more because I think it's only because people were not knowing exactly what you would need to do in a sales or M&A discussion. So one, once you know, you work toward that if it's something that you're looking for. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was like the maturity of the ecosystem it's getting better. It was a little bit different like 2 years ago. So 2 years
Yeah.
ago. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. And I think that resonates, right? You've got really great practitioners. You mentioned like Diamond Elite partners, obviously experts, they've scaled their organizations, but something about the finance or the business plan like was just sort of lacking. Like what was it? So we've got folks on the call probably that are thinking about starting their own thing or have been doing it a while. Like what were some of those things that we're missing?
Well, every situation is different, but I've seen, I met with some solopreneur and some like smaller business operator that were just not interested into into important topics like operation. They knew they had a great product, great service offering and all of that, but it's not enough if you want. And by the way, there's probably some solopreneur or small business operator that just do not want to grow. And these days, it seems like you always need to focus on growth. Focusing on fun is something important too. It's really important. And the fun is not the same when you're trying to grow than when you're trying to just control your career by having a small agency or a solopreneur. So that's really different. So figuring out if you want to continue on your own or grow is really probably the first question. That seems so natural, but sometimes you're not really know. So it's really important because it will bring early on some tough discussion like cash flow management. Like I remember when the first agency I was like, we were like 8 or 9 employees, and like we were talking about cash flow management back then. Like, doesn't it's not a discussion you start to have when you're like 100 employee and more. Like, it's something you need to be focusing hard. Probably the biggest misstep I'd say I've seen is people try to do too much too fast. Like hitting a home run is something really fun and but people seem to focus only to do, like on doing home runs all the time and it comes with a lot of pressure. But you can win really well by doing singles, double and triples. Like I'm a baseball player, so I have a lot of baseball analogy there. But it's something that you need to be prepared. And when you start to grow, if your focus is really on growing your company early on, I'd say finance is important, operation is important, but always keep the focus on sales because if there's no sales, there will be no plan to execute after that. So I've seen like small business operator that were doing all the sales themselves switch into operation role and left a big void behind on sales and they create an amazing well-oiled machine to execute a lot of project but they were not having sole project to work on, so that's something that's unfortunately tough on. I've seen that quite often, unfortunately, but it's something you need to keep a huge focus on all the way through from being a small to a large HubSpot elite partner.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple things that you mentioned that I just want to touch on. You mentioned really staying focused on obviously sales, also finance and operations. Like for that's going to come like different things are going to come easier to some than others and so forth. Everybody's different. When somebody's looking to scale up, like if somebody started a business because they were experts in, technically implementing HubSpot as an example, and what we're saying is, hey, really, you need to have a good appreciation and command of the finances. Like, how, any advice for anyone who's like, how do I scale up in finance in that case? Like, how do I focus on cash flow management?
Well, the first thing is if you're not like if you never were not educated on this, like make sure you get the right knowledge about it. If it's something you clearly have absolutely no interest on, hire someone real fast that's going to be able to support you. Or sometimes there's having a great mentor. When I was like early on in the process, I had a really great mentor from a really large agency in Montreal. He helped me, and quite frankly, it helped me to shape the mindsets I had, and it helped me. took a lot of right decision back then. He was completing me while I was trying to educate myself because it's really hard to focus on so many things at the same time. But you have to be able to understand some of the finance consideration, whether you try to leverage to get more money from the bank to invest into your company. Just taking a bad decision right there, it could kill your future, the future of your company. So making
Yeah.
sure you got someone experience going there with you is something really important. Um, and I'd say probably, and it's different from every company I've seen. Like there's no like a pure play of like pure set of KPIs you need to hit, and I'll share a few later. But I think the most important thing is to make sure you keep your sales aligned with your operation and your operation aligned with your HR and your finance. It's that is the most important thing moving forward. So from us being a small agency wanting to grow to a mid-side and then to a grow wanted to become bigger, it's always what's really important. If your sales is not able to support the well-oiled machine you got, you're never going to be able to succeed. If in your operation you realize that you need more people, that's why I'm linking the HR and finance to it. Like you need to be able to track internal KPI. It's really it's not complicated. You need to make sure you have predictability on when you're going to need someone into the team. If not, it's going to slow your growth early on. So yeah, it's something that you really need to focus on. So that's why it's important to surround yourself with people that will complement you on a lot of those aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you in any of the maybe SmartBug is not the best example here, but like in the earlier organizations when you are scaling, starting out, and so on, like, did you have specific mechanisms that you used to try to ensure that you had alignment?
Yeah, I will early on, and it's not the same for everyone. So it's just see it more as an idea more than like it's a path that's going to work with everyone. But we establish a certain amount of hour that if we fulfill a specific number of billable hour per employee, we would be able to grow on that. So the billable hours and the sold hours, like we realized early on that we're selling hours. We're like as business operator, we were selling like that was a currency throughout all the company.
Hmm.
So when I was looking at sales, I was not looking at the dollars. I was looking at the number of hours sold. So it would be tied up to the operational target I had for everyone. And then I knew that, let's say on a monthly basis, if the like the number of billable hours I needed for someone was, I don't know, like 120, I knew that 120 would be someone on the HR side when I got another 120 hours I need to hire. So if I got that into my pipeline, I was able to create like a predictability pattern, so I would be always be able to support the growth at the right time. And I say always, like trust me, it was not easy, and we failed on some time. So, but it's something that really helped us early on. That was really the mechanism that we worked. So making sure we find the link because if you people early on always told to every solopreneur or like younger entrepreneur like you need to focus on like 5 KPIs, you need to focus like there's so many like weird recipe out there, but at the end of the day like it's making sure every KPI you have are tied to each other. So that's why internally on us. Like the currency for everything was hour. So there was a link from every KPI we had inside of the company. So that's how we grew up.
Got it. Got it.
The first two agency we had, and we kept that a long time, and we still use a part of that in some of our KPI actually too. So it's a pattern that each and everyone can develop, and it works because like when you grow, you put a lot of your effort, you put a lot of pressure on you. You don't want to like hit a wall, like because it will keep you from moving to the path you want. So predictability will give you better insight on what to do, what decision to take from being a small company to a larger one.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned a couple of the key KPIs, billable hours per employee, sold hours per employee. Are there others that you would?
I think as if there's something maybe I would go back and start doing, like there's a lot of people that focus either too much on the people. So KPI on the people, like billable hours, all that stuff. But I think if you have the right KPI for people, one or two, that's enough. But don't forget to have KPI on a project view too. So if I would have to go back in time, probably I would focus a little bit more on realization rate. That's probably the easiest KPI to track like a project profitability. It fits by the number of hours too. So that would have fit with what we were doing back then. So it's something that it's a KPI I really appreciate. And probably because a lot of people, and I'm in the partner user group as of today, and we're every year we're having discussion on like satisfaction, customer satisfaction. How can we get there? And there's always, I don't know about the other on the solopreneur side, but it's really hard to get people to reach you and give you always the right insight on like satisfaction and all of that. But there's a few things that if you instead of working on like I don't know CSAT or stuff like that, because I've never seen or heard of a company doing it the way I would have done it. Like it's always it's there's always issue with that. But if you focus on what matter, like if a customer is looking to buy more hours or more package or more services from you, that's probably one of the best metric in terms of satisfaction there could be. So creating strong bonds with your most important customer is really something I would focus on, making sure we have a great upsell and a resale strategy instead of focusing too much on a CSAT approach. It's good. It's good. I'm not going to lie. It's something we do, but it's I think focusing more on the person you're working with is going to really make the difference. So yeah, focusing on customers is something really important. In the HubSpot ecosystem, a lot of agencies are working and using some of the reviews, and I think it's a great approach, and it's something really interesting because it's a proof that like that your customer is able to share with everyone that they were happy about your services, but at the end. I will always prefer to have a customer that's going to renew with us than a customer that will not work on other services with us, but give us a great review. So if you ask me, like long-term relation is always going to be something I'm going to try to focus on. And they're really early on. Like there's a few customer that I was working with them at the first agency I've worked like I own, and then they switched to MXO a few years later, and then they switched to Globalia and SmartBug now. So we have a few customer that we're working like on a 15-year relationship.
Wow.
That's something that you start early in the process
Yeah.
because you will grow and if you invest, if you something that I think I got a great advice. If I would have to go back, I would like that someone tell me that focusing not necessarily on the cost on the company you're working with, but on the person you're working with. I got a lot of customers that are still working with us that change to a company to another one and then to another one. And we probably have the last four place that that person worked on as a customer today. But every time, like people in marketing, people in sales, they switch faster than in some other industry or line of business. So invest in the relation with everyone and it will help you grow. And sometime you're going to receive a call out of nowhere from a former customer that's like, hey, like we had fun working with you. You did a great job. I'm at a new place. Can we work together? And that's probably one of the best feeling because it's just perfect. They're calling
Yeah.
you back because you did great and they need you. So it's
I love that.
investing in the relation is something I would, I would, I think we did great, but I would probably have invested more time in that when early in my career. That's for sure.
So I know that folks on the call and those that watch the recording later are going to want me to ask, like, can we dive deep on that? Like, how do you do that in the beginning?
It's when you invest into a relation, it's Brian, we had a few meetings. Every time we had meetings together, we're not jumping into the topic of the meeting straight up. We're asking each other, are you going well? What's happening? Blah, blah. All of that small talk is key. That's how you create a relation. Like you can see that I'm a Celtics fan. You can see I'm a Red Sox fan. Like I got some customer that we start talking 5 minutes about all of that. When I was younger, I was like, it's 5 minutes less to focus on trying to sell something. It's 5 minutes less trying to do blah blah blah. But then with the background and being like, I'm 43 right now, so it's been a while since I'm doing this. But like, there's a lot of people that we kept those discussion a long time, and sometimes they have worked at three or four other places, and we've worked with all of the employer of that person, and we still talk about those small things. So be great at trying to create a relationship with people, interest in, and it's really like remember like when HubSpot was really about like try to erase fiction, like try to erase friction from the whole flywheel and you can do that with the person you're talking to. Like, how can I help you? Like, it's not always about like like there's only we have customer all over the U.S. and Canada, so there's I rarely find a Red Sox fan or a Celtics fan. Most of the time they hate my ad, but that's good. That's good. I got other tricks. I'm going to interest myself in the friction they are living, in the problems they are living, and I'm going to ask them, how can we solve for you and listen what's your issue instead of trying to push a service
Yeah.
without asking that. So it's really connecting to the source of the problem, trying to solve some, like there's a lot of people that won't listen when they're in a meeting with a customer and they jump and they're great, great charisma and all of that. Like it's, if you want to create a long-term relation, they will always remember that you solve a problem for them when they go at another place or have another problem. Like they will remember you as a problem solver is that's probably the best thing they can. Like it's they're going to call you back whenever they have other issues like that. So investing into the relation is trying to help that person do best. And HubSpot is a great tool to help and support that. So that's why we really invested a lot into that ecosystem. But if you think of all of your customers and I know on HubSpot sales because we met with a few of the sales rep team at HubSpot, and I remember one of the I don't remember what team it was, but one of the sales manager, I remember he told his team when I was attending to a meeting, like, try to make sure the person you're talking to is aware that you want her to success, not necessarily the company to success. So I've told to a few of my customer, like I'm here to help you grow within your company. You took the right decision with HubSpot. You took the right decision choosing us. Now I'm going to prove you right, and we're going to invest in finding the right solution for you instead of just pushing a service, pushing a package, pushing whatever other people do. So it's not a trick. A lot of people are trying to focus more their sales approach or their customer service approach on like trying to solve, trying to erase friction, and I think that's probably when the time, like probably like 5 or 6 years ago, when they bring that like erase the friction mojo on HubSpot side was probably the best era HubSpot ever had. Like it was absolutely what other solution and other vendor were not focusing on. They were trying to be pushy when we were trying to understand and like create a real relation with the customer. So
Yeah, makes a
yeah,
lot of sense. I know we're a little short on time, so what I am going to do is open it up to the community, folks that are on the phone. If you have a question you'd like to ask Jean-Michel, you can turn your camera on and come off mute and uh, and ask away.
Hey,
Hey, Chris.
Jean-Michel.
hi
Uh,
Chris.
Thank you for all this great info today. I'm curious, especially since you've kind of experienced the whole journey from small to big. We're seeing a lot right now, and in terms of like, I love, I would love for the predictability advice to be like easy to follow. But in this world right now, AI. We're hearing, three-person teams being able to do what the big organizations can. How are you thinking of that? Or like, what is your recommendation to others to try and achieve predictability when it's it's so uncertain right now?
Yeah, the like we've been through a few crises, a pandemics, economical crisis, in like we have customer in Canada and the US, tariff discussion and a lot of that. Like it's a lot. It's a lot at the same time. There's a lot of insecurities, but we need. I'll get back to something I said to a friend yesterday because I think it really applies. We are always good, especially in sales, or because the predictability model I explained, it's start with sales. We're really good at focusing on the KPI, like a close rate or blah, 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 but we're not focusing on the action that brings like the KPI. So in HubSpot, we started to use like probably like 5 or 6 years ago, uh, sales activity. And tracking sales activity is going to be something that if you like routinely do, it's really hard you're going to be able to miss on your target because if you like no matter if there's a crisis economically or whatever if you keep meeting with some of your customer, you will decide maybe at one point, like you shift to like it's harder to get new customer. Well, try to sell more to your active customer and try to gain predictability there, but keep the same volume of action on your sales approach. And when you're a solopreneur or a group of a few strategists, like make sure you do the same volume of action to try to bring a new customer in. And I know HubSpot was a lot about inbound, and then we had great some at one point amazing SEO tool, uh, but don't forget that outreach is not only about inbound really, because like I was not attending the event in New York like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago that HubSpot did, but I've seen some slides from that event, and like on HubSpot side, the blog posts, like the performance of the blog, like it crashed in the last year, and it's not surprising. So all of our efforts that we do with inbound, it's important to keep that, but it's going to be you need to replace that with other stuff. And sometimes other stuff is old school stuff, like calling a customer, reaching out to people you've worked with in the past, trying like I'm not saying that you need to pick up the phone just like in the 80s and start calling customer, but sometime adding other stuff than inbound to your sales mix of activity will probably help you to move forward. You know what? We can use HubSpot agents to help you with your outreach. So it's a solution that a lot of you are probably really good at doing. I'm not like I understand AI. I use AI every day, but like I will not be the right person to create an agent to do that. We got that internally. We got people working on this, but it's something that's going to help you focus because I can't ask my customer to find me on the web when myself I'm using more chat GPT and other AI tools to look for something.
Mhm.
They're the same. Like they're like I'm doing this because I think it's just better results. Our customer, whenever they start tasting this, are doing the same. So you have to kind of pick up the game in a sense and try to adjust your strategy there too, because it's not it changed. So you have to adjust. But keeping the same amount of sales activity, but just switching them depending on the crisis or the event or whatever, like is going to really help you out to adjust to any crisis. And predictability model that I've shared start with sales, and then with operation and delivery, and then HR and it's a big cycle. It's a big cycle. You'll know when you get sales, you will need people to work on the project. And then if you need to hire, you like it's really easy when you start to get there. But kicking it into sales and focusing into sales, it seems so obvious. A lot of people I'm talking to are delegating that part, are trying to just like try to skip that phase, and it's really one of the most important, and especially for a solopreneur, for small agency, when you start kicking it, like staying on the sales side and or find someone that's going to be really good that you really trust, that's going to be able to help you out. But sometimes it's as easy as people got to me and says like, I got issues. I just want you to look at how we work. And I just realized like you stop being in communication with potential customer. You're not, they're not seeing you. You're not reaching them. we got a big issue there. Like there's no magic to this. Like so, yeah,
Awesome.
being
Thank you.
active. It's not always something that's really funny and to do, but it's something that like if you can hustle into your sales, you're going to create a great model for you to grow. If it's something you want, I just want to get back to this. It's like growth is not a finality. Like I got friends in this ecosystem that are amazing at what they do. They are one, two, three, four people that work together closely. Sometimes it's like four solopreneurs that decide to work together, not as a company, but just like they support themselves and their plan is not to sell a company in 25 years to go and retire. It's just to have fun at what they do, control their career, and that's it. And you know what? It's great. And I think a few of the topics and the tricks I shared can cover a lot of that too. Yeah.
I love that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Jean-Michel, this flew by. I'm sure that there are other questions that folks have. Would you mind? What's the best way for folks to follow you after the
Probably the best way to reach me would be on LinkedIn.
Okay,
If you have a specific question that you were shy to ask, or you see this video later, you can reach me. It's always going to be a pleasure to help out everyone. Could be about like operation. That's what I do. Could be about management, but it could be also just question of trying to find your place into the HubSpot ecosystem. That's also evolving at the same time we have that discussion. So if you have any question, it will be really a pleasure to help you out.
brilliant. Well, Jean-Michel, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights with us, and really appreciate it. I think you've given us a lot to think about and work on. So thank you.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.